All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Well, oh my goodness, this is the second time that I've started talking with my mic muted. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Slider Break. You're watching another Project Hexagon stream, and of course, got a new haircut, so I'm sorry, chat. But joining me, aside from that, joining me in the VC today is gonna be the lovely Dio. I think this man needs no introduction, but Dio, run us through it anyways.
Yeah, hail. I'm Dio. I do a bunch of tournament stuff. I am part of the global moderation team. I'm a member of tournament committee. I am an OWC caster and playtester for last year and 2023. I've been casting it since 2021. I'm host of the Perennial. I'm head of tournament operations for the Roundtable, a community contributor as of last year, and just general tournament staff since 2018. And I've been playing the game since 2014, so quite a while.
Yeah, no, a very a lot of achievements. A very well known player in the community. I think when most players think of especially Keycom and whatnot, like you are the first person that comes to mind, and rightfully so. I mean, you've been everywhere. Roundtable, land stuff, and whatnot. You're very decked out, and I think I'm very pleased to have you here for the six-digit World Cup interviews. For another six-digit World Cup interview. Glad to have you here, man. I
Yeah,
guess
pleasure to be here.
let's just start, with some nice icebreaker questions. What first drew you to Osu, and more specifically, what sparked your deep interest in the competitive tournament scene?
Okay, so what drew me to Osu?
Hmm.
That's one question.
Yeah.
Um, so I started playing back in early 2014, February 2014. I think I had 7 play count that month. And part of the reason that I played is because a lot of my friends were playing League of Legends. That was
Oh,
back in the day when Osu was a League of Legends aim trainer.
no
And so I
kidding.
gave it a try. I put in 7 play count. I said, nah, not for me, thanks, and put it away until December the same year. And then I started actually playing again. I think because my friend showed me Ruruchi's Big Black SS. And I
Hmm.
was like, huh, that's cool. How does he not drop slider ends by just clicking the slider head? That's a weird game mechanic. Maybe I can play that someday. And just started playing the game. What got me into tournaments, I've always been like somewhat competitive. I played a sport growing up, at least one sport, if not multiple,
Oh.
until I was in high school. And in sophomore year of high school, I dropped wrestling and joined the debate team and did competitive debate from sophomore year of high school until senior year of university. And they're just, I just like being competitive. So I've been playing some tournaments since about 2015, on and off. And then started staffing tournaments in late 2018 when university debate was starting to wind down. I knew I was going to have to find some kind of hobby to replace yapping professionally, literally yapping professionally on the debate team. So I started casting Osu
And then you
tournaments,
yapped
as one
professionally
does.
somewhere else.
Right, exactly. So I just found somewhere else to yap, basically. And it also just happened to be in a competitive scene. And I think that's part of what drew me to doing tournament casting in particular, is because it's another competitive scene. It's somewhere that I can both, staff and play, as I had done in university debate also.
Mhm.
So it just kind of was a solid fit because I had been playing for 4 years or so at that point anyway.
Mhm.
So I knew enough of the game to know that I was probably fine to play for a while longer, and enjoyed the game pretty much. So
Mhm.
it just felt like a good place to be. That's all.
Ahem. So would you say that there wasn't really any sort of calling? Like it kind of just felt like a natural progression in your life?
Yeah, no, there wasn't like any. Oh, I have to go, cast Osu tournaments. I don't know who gets a calling to do that. Um,
This is
I'm
my
sorry, I don't know
purpose
who
in
gets a
life.
calling to
This is
do
my
that.
sole due purpose in life.
This is my one purpose in life, is to cast Osu tournaments. No, yeah, I just like found another hobby. You know,
I
that's
see.
really it. It was just, I want to find another hobby, and that was the hobby I found and stuck with it.
And this was in when 2018. Is that right?
Yeah, late 2018, like
Oh.
October going into winter, late fall 2018.
Right, and you were predominantly a caster before anything else, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I did kind of an equal split. So the first I joined 3 tournaments to staff at once just to kind of jump into things.
Yep.
And I basically split streaming, commentating, and refing because those are kind of the most basic functional
Mm,
tasks of a tournament, right? You
mm,
don't start off spreadsheeting or map pooling. If you're joining a tournament to staff, you start off doing one of the slightly more basic roles,
yeah,
which that's what they are.
yeah.
Um, and after that, I think I started to specialize more into casting and as a byproduct streaming because if you can stream matches, then there's more matches for you to cast, right? So,
Mhm. Yeah, no. That is so real. The amount of times it got caster hogged by a streamer, man, it's tough. It's tough. Anyways, I hope my mic isn't too bad, guys. I don't know what's happening with that. Anyways, let's move on to our next question. I think, you mentioned a lot about, how you started casting and what. How long did it take for you to go into hosting?
I can look at my profile for that because I don't remember offhand, but I
Oh
know I
man.
hosted one in 2019.
Hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, my first hosted tournament was in 2019. So I started staffing in late 2018 with some tournaments that kind of rolled over into 2019 in the new year.
Hmm.
And then hosted my first tournament with the forum post dropping on July 3rd, 2019. So over 6 months later, not quite a year, but like 9 months or so after I started staffing, um,
Hmm.
I staffed quite a few tournaments before actually hosting my own. I staffed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different other tournaments before I hosted my own.
I see. That is like in stark contrast to what I've asked the other guests. I asked them, so what was your first experience with Starfleet? And they're like, no, I hosted my first thing. I just hosted, and it's,
Yeah, that's
but
troll. Those people are trolling.
that's true. I mean, but for you, it was like it was,
Straight up, those people are trolling that.
and like and like
What
and
are we
like
doing?
and like what about like cheating and whatnot? Were those things that you like slowly picked up in your 15 tournaments? Like, did you slowly branch out into that, or how was it like for you going into more advanced roles?
So originally, like when I first hosted a tournament, I did have Leo FLT helping me with sheets. He was not a
Uh,
host of OWC back then. He was just another dude doing spreadsheets in the community and hosting tournaments and doing stuff.
Leo. Yeah.
So I had him helping me out with sheets. But after that first tournament, I decided, I think it was really like after the second tournament that I hosted, which was winter 2019, 2020, that I started really doing a lot of spreadsheeting for other tournaments.
Hmm.
And when I started developing spreadsheet templates, because I wanted to make sure that because back then there were really only 2 people who were good at spreadsheets. It was
Hmm.
Leo and it was Ice Dynamics. And
I study.
those were really the only 2 people who were good at spreadsheets who knew how to automate anything really using the API and being able to use API pull requests to bring things into Google Sheets and then automate from there with formulas. So I learned how to do that and made templatable spreadsheets based on their work with the API. Kind of after hosting a couple of tournaments, in order to make sure that eventually, when they stopped, being active in the community, there would still be an alternative for me to be able to do spreadsheets. It's not all selfless here, right? I need to make sure that I have spreadsheets, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
I learned how to do it myself, and that's pretty much what I've done with everything. Okay, don't need extra map poolers if you know how to map pool yourself. Don't need, only need so many streamers and commentators if you can do it yourself. Only need so many, don't need a cheater if you can do it yourself, right?
Right.
So I learned how to do everything
Mm,
eventually.
mm.
I'd say the one thing I never really learned is graphics, but
People go to school for that,
I've been
man.
pretty
People
lucky
go to
with that.
school for
I've been
that.
pretty lucky with that.
And how did you learn spreadsheet? Was that like something that you knew beforehand, or was that something that you legit from the ground built up?
No, I just looked at what other people did and figured out how it worked and copied it. Like there's not, there was, I think Ice Dynamics had a video tutorial on how to make a ref sheet from scratch, and that was kind of it. I used that to help myself learn like some basic commands and ways to use sheet formulas, but that's really it for tutorials. I talked with Leo and Ice Dynamics a lot. I just kind of went about figuring it out and practicing and doing, working with them a bunch, and that was really it.
Yeah, but I think I think about that, and I think again, it's like, wouldn't it stop once you kind of got that ref sheet? What kind of pushed you to keep on learning about sheeting and whatnot? Because like once you have the template, it's really easy to just put it everywhere.
Yeah, ref sheets aren't the end though.
Oh,
right?
that's
Like,
true. That is true.
Yeah, like
That's
hold
true.
on.
That's
Let me pull
true.
up my templates folder real quick, and let me just actually, I'm hosting a tournament right now.
Redlock, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Redlock, which is a Canada only tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the Redlock folder, I have a map pool sheet, a ref sheet, an admin sheet, the main sheet, the qualifier sheet, where all of the qualifier data is actually getting processed, and a then qualifier stats sheet. All of those sheets are different templates, except I guess the main sheet, which is not really a template. But all of those sheets are different templates, right? Some of them involve API pull requests in a major way, like the map pool sheet or the qualifier sheet or stats sheet. Some of them are a little less so, like the ref sheet, right? But there's a lot of different sheets that go into making a tournament. And back in the day, back in 2018, 2019, I was reffing in Notepad with no ref sheet, just in Notepad. There were no external
There's no
tools.
chat for Osu. There's no chat.
Well, I think was there chat for Osu? I don't remember. You'll have to look up the release date. I don't remember. There was IRC. There wasn't chat for Osu until a certain point in time, but there was regular IRC clients before that. But regardless, yeah, I was roughing with like a Notepad, the Notepad app on Windows, and then no ref sheet, so you manually typed out the match results copy pasta, which was templated, pinned in the results channel so that you could grab the text from like a code block that was pinned in the Discord channel, type stuff in manually into the match results command, and then get this for qualifiers. Because nothing was automated, how do you get all the scores from the MP links? Well, your referee copies and pastes every score manually onto a spreadsheet for you.
Man, reffing used to be a hard job. Yo, reffing used to be a hard job.
Reffing used to be hard. Reffing used to be real. Like, I still talk about this with some old heads. Like, y'all don't know how good you have it.
Yeah.
This is why I did so much work with spreadsheets. Because if I can automate away 90% of that work, it makes my job as the person doing a lot of that work on the ground also so much easier. It's just so much easier to host when you have good sheets.
Like, it's just like, and the crazy part is that all these things are commonplace nowadays, right? And you see this, any tournament is expected that you have this. That's incredible. That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah. It was a weird. I came in really right at the end of the manual era, and as the transition began into the automation era.
Right.
So I was one of the people who definitely helped push template sheets a lot. But definitely the two people at the forefront of sheeting at the time were Leo and Ice Dynamics. I definitely did a lot of work with helping popularize templates, but those were the two who really paved the way for templates to exist.
Do you know what the first notable use of these templates were? Like, which tournament first ended up using like all these templates?
I mean, there would have been a lot at the time. I mean, it's like when chat for OS got released, right? Basically, everybody just started using that, right? So there wasn't one major notable tournament that used them. Everybody started using these automated sheets basically all at once because it was just way easier.
Yeah.
So there wasn't one tournament. It was just everybody.
Yeah, no, it's just like once someone gets their hands on it's just commonplace for everyone. And honestly,
Yeah.
fair enough. I do not know what I would do if I had to. Like, I don't even want to press the button when
Yeah.
I post match results. So like, I can't imagine copy pasting everything. Holy crap.
Yep.
All right. And so I assume that sort of gets to our question that these were the sort of struggles that you had in tournaments early on. There was very little automation. There's a lot of manual stuff, and I assume because of that, it took so much time, and catering for larger amounts of players was so difficult. And tournaments in itself, would you say it was less accessible due to the lack of automation?
I don't know about less accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think it wasn't necessarily less accessible as much as it was just higher effort.
Right.
Anybody staffing a tournament, you knew that they had to be putting in effort because there was no easy way to do things,
Because
right?
you had to brute force everything,
So
right?
right, you were just manually doing everything, so you kind of knew that everybody was putting in some effort when you were staffing a tournament because there was no easy way. Um, Definitely, there were some people who were more committed than others, as there always are, but yeah, I'd say it was like a little bit less. It was just harder. It wasn't necessarily less accessible
Mm.
because it's not like um it's not like it's work that requires a high level of skill, right? Anybody can copy paste stuff from Notepad, right? Anybody can copy
True.
paste scores
True.
from an
True.
MP link.
True.
It's just a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, okay, okay. And so coming all the way from the past, coming to the present, are there still any sorts of things that you want, or any sort of projects that you want to change? Any sort of things that you think should be commonplace now? I'm quite sure, like a few years ago, stat sheets weren't common in the scene at all, and then now everybody's doing it. So, is there anything for you that you're looking out for in the future?
Um, Honestly, I'm not really sure as to like tooling or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. The big thing that people have been talking about for years and years that never really happened is tournament elo. I think tournament rating from Stage is doing,
Right.
trying to do that, and being pretty successful at it for now.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely still in early stages, but it's coming along. Um, I think that's really the last big thing from years past that, in terms of tooling, never really got released.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's pretty much the biggest community related project. I'm unfortunately not helping out with that. I'm just busy. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's the one I'm most excited about.
Mm-hmm.
As for me, I think I'm just going to continue to keep my sheets updated and
That's good.
do some video tutorials every once in a while and
Mm-hmm.
just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, no. I wanna talk a bit more about Stage's stuff because we had an interview with Stage, and I mean, with you personally as a tournament host, do you see this solving the whole de-ranker rank equal skill issue that it has been plaguing all of the rank restricted scenes for bygone eras?
I don't think it'll solve it, but I think it'll make things better. Just
Mm-hmm.
like BWS, right? BWS originally was Digital Hypno winning 24-digit tournaments and then saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't be able to play these anymore," um, and creating a system that artificially ranked up people based on how many tournaments they've won.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a system that gives you an artificial rank based on how many matches you've won and lost, right? It's going to be better than what we have. No system is going to be perfect, but I think it'll be a lot better than just pure OS rank, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you host 6-digit World Cup. You know that rank does not necessarily equate to skill. I have watched 5-digit World Cup. I have watched 4-digit World Cup. I
Oh no
understand
no.
that these players are not the same. These players are
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah. And do you see a future where perhaps ELO replaces the rank restricted format? I'm not too sure how familiar you are. I know you've done a bunch of seasonals, but do you see a future where it sort of replaces that rank restriction, or do you think it works?
Yeah,
in
I started
tandem?
off in rank restricted. I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was originally a rank restricted Sapphire, so
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I think BWS completely replaced rank for rank restricted also, right? Except
yeah.
in very few cases, right?
Mhm.
Like I know 4WC didn't use it this year. 3WC doesn't use it. There's a couple of exceptions to the rule, but the rule is you use BWS if you're hosting a rank restricted tournament because it just makes sense.
True.
So I think eventually, yeah, it'll probably just come to replace it, assuming the system works better than BWS. Because let's face it, why would you not just use the better system?
That's true.
Right? If it's eligible for badge and it works better than BWS for controlling what players are allowed to register within a certain rank range,
Right.
then why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no. And I'm mostly asking this question because of literally what you mentioned, right? BWS, 4WC, 3WC doesn't end up using it. And so that's why I'm looking at Elo system and, you know, is it like, should we use it in tandem with each other, or do you think it's like a replacement for it? That's like my thought process with it, you know.
Yeah,
What are your
I think
thoughts?
like
Mhm.
I think there's ways, especially early on, to kind of test how well it can work. And I think there's also ways that you can use them together to create a quote unquote ideal environment. For example, I'm permanently stuck in the rank 5K tournament range, right? If I want to rig a tournament for myself, what I would do is host a rank 5,000 to 50,000 ish tournament. Doesn't really matter what the bottom end is. And I would use both BWS rank. I would employ 3 different ranks. I would employ normal rank, BWS rank, and Elo all at once. And I would say you have to be within this range without
Right.
BWS, within this range with BWS, and within this whatever the equivalent Elo range is. I don't know. I'll make it
Right.
100 points higher than my current Elo when I start registrations, right? And or you know whatever the standard happens to be for 5K at that point, right? So yeah, if I ever host a tournament like that and also I'm playing in it at the same time, you know what's going on. But I feel like there's ways to use these different systems in tandem with each other to kind of procedurally cut down the field to be more and more accurate as to what the real skill range of that field of players should be or is.
Right, yeah. I know. I like that thought. You know, I don't know where Elo is gonna be yet. I am hugely looking forward to whatever stage has planned, but it will be a while. And it will get a lot of backlash and whatnot. But that's just the Tawny scene for you. But yeah,
Yeah.
let's.
One other thing, real quick, before we
yeah.
move on to other topics besides ELO and badges and BWS, where I came from in university debate and high school debate, after you won a tournament in novice, you were forced up into JV. And after you won at most 3 tournaments in JV, for most people it was 1 tournament if you won in JV at all, you went to open. That was it. You win 1 tournament in novice, 1 tournament in JV, and now you're just in open rank.
This is the real world, kid. You better lock in.
So get good. Get good OSU players. If you win multiple tournaments, go to open rank. I would love to see more tournaments adopt the stance that if it's a rank restricted tournament, badge players are just not allowed.
Damn. I like that thought. Yeah, you heard that, Takias? Anyways. Yeah, no. We have a few 6-digit badge players that are still remaining. But I mean, I guess while we're on the scene of the topic of BWS, you know, before we move on to our next topic, I mentioned this question way at the bottom under another section. But what's your take on BWS, and do you see it sort of see it having a future to evolve and grow? Because right now, I think correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm pretty sure I am, but a lot of the time people use the badge system to represent hosting the fact that the tournament has been approved by TCOM, and that's sort of the it's a good tournament kind of justification. And I think over the years, BWS has evolved to become more accessible, but in turn, it sort of loses that prestige as a host and has perhaps become more of a player achievement. I don't know. What are your thoughts on BWS scene in general right now? This is a hot topic.
I think, yeah, I don't know. I think BWS is just kind of, it's somewhat useful for rank restricted tournaments and somewhat useful for open rank tournaments as well, right? If you do rank 2+ BWS, you eliminate a lot of the very best tournament players in the world, like Malashevsky, for example. So those are getting a little bit more common. So we have fewer Malashevsky badge farm tournaments, but still a decent amount of open rank tournaments, quote unquote open rank. Malashevsky MREC can't play. But I think it's I think it's like anything. It's a tool that is somewhat useful in further restricting the amount of players that are eligible for a tournament.
Hmm.
But it's not perfect. It doesn't do everything.
Right.
So it's just one of the things that we use. I don't really have a big take on it other than
Right.
could be better. Doesn't replace something like an elo system. Not anywhere near perfect, but somewhat helpful.
Right. Yeah, no. Just a personal question for me, but let's move along to hosting and stuff. This is a big section. So let's start with a out there question. What is your hosting philosophy, and why do you do what you do?
Um, yeah, I read this question and it's I don't really have a philosophy. I just kind of host tournaments.
It's not that deep. Yeah.
I just kind of host the tournaments that I want to see and host the tournaments that I feel like hosting at
Mhm.
any given point. Um, I've never hosted a regional before, but I just hosted Redlock because I wanted Canada to have a good 1v1 tournament to help, groom talent for the World Cup next year. Um, I wanted to host a kind of weird tournament that had really ridiculous map pool scaling and group stages and
Oh hey.
a bunch of 6-star gimmick maps alongside 9-star mechanics. Okay, I hosted a 1v1 that did that. I wanted to host half open rank, half 5k 2v2 team size 4 where you have to have one of each in at the same time and also nobody can have a badge when they register. Okay, I'll do that. I wanted to host a really good tournament and try hard and see exactly what I can do if I really put my mind to it. Okay, I'll do that, right? I don't really have a specific philosophy for hosting. Again, going back to what I said at the start, this is a hobby. I just do shit for fun and see if it works. I don't know. There's
Right.
not
Ah, you just a chill guy like that.
There's not
You
much
just
more
a
to
chill
it,
like
man.
that. You
I
just
do
a
this
chill,
shit for fun.
you just a chill guy like that. Wait, no, but I find it very interesting. I mean, like you do so many tournaments, so and you make it sound like such a casual thing. Is it like what gives you that that freedom to just do whatever you? Is it because you have so many roles that you can kind of just start anything at any time, or is there like a big commitment that goes into hosting a tournament? Is there
I
no
mean,
cost?
obviously, there's a big commitment, right? Like, I have to,
Uh
you're committing for multiple months to run this thing and to give out prizes and to,
yeah.
be accountable to staff and to moderate the server and all this other stuff, right? So it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of stuff. But I've done it, God knows how many times at this point. So if I want to host a tournament, I just do it.
Right.
Definitely back when I first started out hosting, there was a lot more thought that went into each particular tournament. My first tournament I hosted something rank restricted so that I could kind of help guide the map pools and help with map pooling a lot and understand what was going on more with a 1v1 with just a normal qualifiers into round of 64 1v1, right? Nothing special, nothing crazy, just dip my feet in the water, one division, and then the next time I did, okay, a couple divisions and a team tournament, right? And get some other map poolers on board and expand the scope a little bit and,
Right.
keep expanding scope and trying a little harder and harder each time. And maybe changing up the format a little bit, like 1v1 to 3v3 to 4v4, right? So definitely early on when I first started hosting, there was a lot more thought that went into each individual tournament. And it was less, okay, I'm hosting just because I think this format will be fun, and more, I'm hosting because I like staffing tournaments and I want to create matches and see how good of a host I am. Um,
Mm.
but at this point, yeah, I mean, it's a hobby. It's definitely a big part of my life, but it's still a hobby. So ultimately, if I'm not doing it for fun, why am I doing it?
Man, yeah, no, I'm listening to this, and from host to host talk. I mean, what do you enjoy so much about staffing, dude? What do you enjoy so much about hosting? I mean, like, you're the host of the big 4v4 every year, and then but then you still find time to just host chill tournaments. You don't care about I assume you don't care about viewership. You don't really care about anything. What are you doing this for, man? What's so fun?
I don't know. I like casting matches. That's pretty fun.
That's true.
Um,
That's true.
I like I like putting maps I think are cool in map pools and watching people play maps I think are cool.
This guy.
Um, I like watching really good players pop off on really hard pools. That's pretty fun too. I like watching Seed 64 win a point against MREC on Horse Race the Map in
Oh,
tournament. That's
oh,
pretty fun.
I remember.
Yeah, no, I like. There's just a bunch of random stuff, and I just find a lot of individual parts pretty fun, and that adds up to a fun experience hosting. Like, I don't need a deep reason to do this. It's just a hobby. It's just for fun. I happened to put in a lot of effort for a long time and get really good at it, and so now I can kind of coast a little bit on some of the less serious tournaments, right? Still put in effort on Perennial and OWC and Roundtable and all these bigger tournaments, but on some of the less serious tournaments, some of the less well advertised or well known tournaments in my seasonals, I put in a little less effort. I experiment a little more. I have fun with it.
And you've been doing it for so long that it's like you can just do it. Like at least for the smaller ones, it's chill. It's really just a hobby. I feel it. Like, I feel the hobby part of it just kind of like, there's no sort of motive for viewership. There's no motive for being the face, because you literally are already the face of the scene. Like, there's no popularity contest. It's just
There's definitely, like, especially early on, there was definitely some motivation for, you know, viewership and hosting the best tournament possible, right? I mean, that's part of why I created the Perennial, is because I wanted a tournament. I saw Course Ace Open the year before, and I was like, wonder if I can do that. Wonder if I can make a tournament that's that good or close to it and get some high viewership and, you know, have a tournament that really pops off. And so that's what I tried my hand at. So there was definitely, you know, there's definitely some times where I do care about viewership, right? When I'm going for Tri-Badge, I want Perennial to have as much viewership as possible, as much interest as possible. Right? There's definitely some instances where I still care about it. But definitely in some cases, like, if you run a good tournament and people know that you run good tournaments, people are going to sign up for them. And when people sign up for them, they tell their friends about them, more people know about it. You just get people watching because either they know about the tournament, they played it, or their friends are playing, or there's just really good players playing a really hard pool, and people want to watch that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's so real, dude. And I find it so interesting because you're mentioning Perennial and all of this stuff, but you still go down and you still just host your chill casual tournaments, and I find that really, really interesting about you. I mean, how many tournaments do you host in a year? Like,
I don't know. Depends.
This
It
guy,
depends. I don't know.
he's too chill. He's too chill.
Like it depends, man.
He's
I don't
too
know.
chill.
Like there's a lot. I don't know. I will say, if you only host really big tournaments, how do you ever find the room to experiment?
That's
right?
true.
Not every idea that you're going to try is going to be successful.
That's
right?
true.
So I need these other less serious tournaments to experiment and pull out stupid shit so that I can do that in a more controlled environment where I'm not, you know, risking a Tri-Badge off of pooling Course Race.
What's some of the more experimental stuff, like maps or like formats? Like, give me some
a little
examples.
both. A little of both. In one of my seasonals, Dio's Bizarre, what the hell did I call it? Dio's Bizarre Badgeless Duel. I had a couple of format gimmicks in that tournament. That was the one that's 2v2, team size 4. No team member can have a tournament badge on their profile. Each team's average rank had to be at least 5,000. And then teams are 1 to 2, tier 1 or tier 2, with tier 1 being 1 to 5k and tier 2 being 5k to 100k. And then I had another thing, time zone groups, as a format for that tournament, which is where I tested the idea for the Perennial. So I just do stuff, a bunch of different things, and I look at how each one of them works and apply the good stuff to the tournaments that I'm putting more effort into, scrap the bad stuff, and just, you know, experiment, try out ideas, and see if they work. Because for a long time, people had really, you know, wanted to crack down on super teams a little bit, create easier ways to schedule matches, and that's kind of a way to do both of those things. Although super teams, you end up creating a little bit a super team from one region versus a super team from the other, so it doesn't necessarily work that way.
South Korea.
It helps a little bit.
Thank you, South Korea versus US grants. Yup.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, let's talk a bit about Perennial. I mean, we have to. You're literally the deal. With Perennial coming to its fourth iteration, how do you and the team look to innovate and continue to give that audience that wow factor that I think Corsace has done a lot in the past? Like with such a big tournament, I think Res Cup as well. How do you look to constantly improve, constantly like exceed expectations? I don't know if that's a goal, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing with so when I first started the Perennial, what I wanted to do was create a solidly well-run tournament that had just kind of a classic format that people knew and liked already, but did things very well and had some high stakes. Right, had a high prize pool. Was just a basic 4v4 team size 8 qualifiers into round of 32. As the tournament evolved a little bit last year, we went to group stages. We had the time zone groups thing, and it changed a little bit as the tournament scene changed. Part of it is upgrading the graphics every year with chillier. Part of it is maybe some format changes. Part of it is adding in original songs as those have become more common.
Yeah.
One of the things that we want to keep for identity, though, because it's not necessarily about innovating for us necessarily, right? The Perennial, as the name goes, is supposed to be kind of a classic tournament. It's
That's
just
true.
supposed to be a classic, well-run tournament. So the format doesn't need to be anything crazy. We can just do 4v4 team size 8 round of 32 after qualifiers and be fine. Um, I think the big thing for us is just keeping quality high, keeping player expectations met with regards to map pool quality, with regards to graphics, with regards to having solid refs, having tons of matches streamed, recording everything for history. Right, we have full YouTube channels and playlists of all of the matches that we've ever streamed after 2022. Um, it's just about keeping the quality up, and I think another big thing for us is not overdoing it. I saw with Corsace that basically a lot of their success for full custom relied on Half Slashed, who is probably the single best custom map manager to ever work on any tournaments in the scene. And when he left, they struggled a lot. And I think while custom maps are good generally, if you have a ton of them, they become incredibly hard to balance. It becomes really difficult
Oh,
to
I know
execute
that.
well.
Oh.
And so we don't do a lot of customs in Perennial. You look at the pools from Perennial last year, I want to say Grand Finals had just 2 originals, and that was it for customs last
Really?
year. Yeah, I want to say that was it. Okay, no, we had the custom Nomad 1, the original in Nomad 3, custom Nomad 6. Any others? Obviously, the original tiebreaker also. Um, but no, that was it. So 4 customs in
Really?
that pool,
Wow.
in grand finals, and that includes 2 originals. Less is more sometimes.
Mhm.
You don't need to go overboard with everything. And I find, especially with original songs, it helps a lot in making them stand out and making people listen to just whatever few originals you released on that pool.
And so, what, in your opinion, is the real pool of the Perennial? I mean, of course, Perennial hosted by Chilia Dio, like, wow, that's crazy. And of course, the graphics are really beautiful. But what do you think sets you apart, or what do you think draws viewers' attention from towards the Perennial that other tournaments just don't have that same kind of aura, for lack of a better term?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I think we just do a lot of small stuff, right? People generally like the map pools. People know that we, tend to listen to feedback.
Hmm.
Um, People are able to play the tournament with friends either from the same region or from different regions, depending on the year, because it is just fully open rank.
Hmm.
Um, I honestly am not sure exactly what sets it apart, but um, I think that's part of the identity is that it's just a classic tournament done really well, and that's kind of it. Sometimes you don't need to do more than that. Sometimes if you just host a really good tournament, people want to play a really good tournament. Um,
Mm.
that's kind of it for me. I never really set out to do more than that. I just set out to host a really good tournament, and make it as good as I could possibly make it. And I think that effort pays off, in the Perennials case at least, and people really enjoyed it for what it was, which was just a solidly run standard tournament.
I think now's a very good time to ask this, but what, in your opinion, is a really good tournament? I think you seeing the 20 scene evolve time to time. You've seen all the OWC back from when UPATs first got announced, and then that started the entire thing. What, in your opinion, is like the core of quote unquote this good tournament that you keep mentioning?
That is a lot of different things. It is things on time, released about the same time, on time, every single week. It is consistent rule application across basically every instance. So your refs knowing all your rules, being able to apply them consistently across any case, not necessarily needing to consult the host for every edge case that they find in the rules, or those edge cases being covered by the rules. Right. It is map pools that people generally want to play rather than wanting to not practice, which is easier said than done. Yeah. It is a tournament overlay and stream overlay that generally looks good and is easy to read for people. I have seen so many tournament overlays that look good but are just impossible to parse what is going on. So, if you're going to reinvent the wheel, you better do a damn good job of it. Otherwise, just use the laser client. I personally am not going to reinvent the wheel. I just use the laser client for Perennial. Guess what? Tri-badged 2 years.
The laser client is the best thing that's happened.
The laser client works, man.
So good.
Yeah. It's having a good team of commentators to bring matches and streams to that next level, which is really hard to do. Right, that requires a lot of connections from working with a ton of people over a long time. Same goes for solid graphics to make that stream overlay look good. Same goes for being able to write good rules, right? If you haven't been around in tournaments for a long time, you might just not know how to write good rules. Same goes for having solid refs. If you haven't worked with a ton of people over a bunch of years, you're not going to know A, who is active, B, who's active and actually good at reffing and applying rules.
Yep.
And C, might not be able to even talk to them because they might just not say yes to staffing your tournament. It's so many small things, but it really just comes down to having both the experience, effort, and connections to bring in other talented staff, to bring in other good staff, and to coordinate that effectively among a bunch of different staff, either by doing a lot of the work yourself, which is definitely something that I do. I think I probably work a little bit too hard when Perennial is running, or by delegating to tons and tons of different people, which if you heard me talking about, no, I need to learn how to do sheets so that I have the ability to do my own sheets, definitely not going to happen. That shit not going to happen. Yeah.
I find it really interesting.
It's really hard to answer that question. There's so many small things going to just making a tournament good, but it's one of those things where you can tell as a player that a tournament is going to be really results reveal. Oh, hello.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think the stream buffered. GG. Could you just go back to like it's very hard to answer this kind of question. I think it cut off just about there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, it's hard to answer, but it's a lot of small things, and it's one of those questions where it can more easily be answered by the players saying, I don't know, man, it just feels like a good tournament right from the beginning.
Right.
If I'm watching the qualifier reveal seeding stream for a tournament and round of 32 map pool showcase, and I can see that there's legit effort being put in and it looks good, and the rules are solidly written, it just feels like a good tournament. And if you add in a little bit of extra spice on top of that, if you put in a little bit more effort, Yeah. Well, not even necessarily custom tiebreaker. Custom maps help, of course, but custom songs help, of course. High prize pool helps, of course. It's none of those one things in particular, right? Perennial last year had like a nothing prize pool basically. Um, but it's the factors that make people really want to play a tournament.
Right.
Um,
Right. And
yeah.
I find it very interesting because like the tourney scene recent, like, okay, maybe not now that Core 6 is gone, but Resurrection Cup just finished, and there are a lot of, like, I'm thinking SSOT, like Core 6, Res Cup, that really try to wow the viewer time and time again, and I think OWC has also been sort of spearheading that. But in stark contrast, you guys just focus on the fundamentals. And like, is there any sort of advice that you would give for newer hosts when it comes to trying to, hosts that might already have the fundamentals but don't know how to get the extra push to reach the sort of level of prestige, especially that the Perennial has?
Man, I don't know. I just ended up here. I, part of me feels like I just kind of fell into it. I don't know. It's make
Yeah, it's I get it.
yeah,
I get it.
that's a really hard question to answer, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would say find your niche in the tournament scene. Back when I first made Perennial, it was, there were no big spring 4v4 tournaments. Sweegie Spring Cup was dead or dying. There was Yaz's Summer Cup was kind of on the way out also, and that was 1v1. There was never really a big spring 4v4 tournament, and then a bunch of other people came in and started doing similar things, like you mentioned, SSOT, Res Cup, right? GAF had kind of overlapped with Corsace a little bit, and so they kind of just got pushed out of the fall tournament spot by Corsace. So there was just this open spot. I took that open spot, ran a good tournament, put a big prize pool to generate some interest for the first iteration, put in effort to make sure it was good enough to live up to the prize pool, which was honestly hard. And I don't think we really did the first iteration. I think we actually did not quite live up to the prize pool the first iteration. I think Perennial 2021 definitely had some issues, and they got mostly fixed in 2022 and 2024. But definitely the biggest thing is to be consistent about putting in solid effort for your tournament. Do a little bit of expansion at a time, right? We started in 2021 with just a little bit of custom maps. In 2022, we did one original, just Grand Finals tiebreaker. In 2024, we did, I don't know, 7, I think, originals. Just 1 or 2 for each pool.
I love Army Floating in Space. I'm sorry. I love.
Yeah, that song's such a banger. And we again, like, we had 1 or 2 originals for every pool, and so a ton of effort went into the single custom map for that original. I think we had like 5 or 6 different wall mods for Grand Finals tiebreaker, right? We put in a shit ton of effort in making sure that that map was as good as it could possibly be,
right.
because that Grand Finals tiebreaker was a ridiculous song. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just make sure that you're consistent. Find a solid niche for yourself in the tournament scene, and make sure that people know that your tournament is worth playing. And if you do that little bit of initial, advertising, either with customs or originals or prize pool or show matches or charity donations or whatever, right? There's tons of different things you can do. It doesn't have to be prize pool. It can be a ton of different things. I think it helps a lot in getting the word out. You then have to make sure that your tournament is worth that hype that you've generated for it, right?
And it's like a process, right? It's like Perennial didn't become big in a day. It's like it ran through 3 iterations, and now it's like, wow, this is the thing of the year. And like Perennial
really ran through, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4 iterations, because I did 4 seasonal tournaments before I hosted Perennial for the first time, right? So that was really my 5th hosted tournament. Like, I solo hosted 4 tournaments before that, and 3 of those were multi-division. So I had a lot of hosting experience when I started Perennial, and then continued hosting a bunch of other tournaments after the first iteration of Perennial. So yeah, there was a lot of there's a lot of behind the scenes work that went into even just the first iteration of Perennial.
It's a slow process, and like, and that's why I'm also very interested in figuring out how you cope with burnout in tournaments. Like, you host so much every year, you have the Perennial. Is there ever a point in time where you're like, I just don't want to host anymore, man? Like, I want to quit.
I mean, like, don't want to host anymore. Definitely at some points, but there's always a break for me between stuff.
Right.
Because I saw back in 2019, 2020, a bunch of people get gapped by burnout, basically.
Yeah, that's
So
so
I
real.
have kind of scheduled breaks in my tournament schedule. I'll sign up to staff a few tournaments at a time, and then I'll leave a couple of weeks or a month in between where I'm just not doing anything. I just have every weekend free for a month.
Jeez.
So I still do a bunch of stuff, but I have scheduled breaks so that I never really burn out from doing a ton of tournaments all at the same time forever. Definitely during Perennial, sometimes it's a little bit rough because of just how much I'm doing and how much work I'm putting in. Because on top of hosting last year, I was also map pooling and doing custom QA and talking with, you know, helping talk with artists for originals and also with background artists. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff, and also doing web dev and sheets, and like, yeah, there was just a lot of stuff. So definitely delegating people for work that you cannot keep up with is also a really good tip. Don't be like me, don't try to do everything. I'm definitely delegating more people next year. But yeah, scheduled breaks and delegation of responsibilities are the 2 big things.
Right. Yeah, and what do you think are like the most dangerous ways that like a host is gonna get burnt out after this? Like, are there some things that you want to try to get hosts to avoid, or maybe elaborate more on like your delegation, what you're talking about delegation?
Yeah. So when I was hosting the Perennial this last, 2024, my schedule during the week, Monday to Friday, was I would go to work, I would come home from work, take a shower, eat some dinner,
Yep.
map pool, and then I'd get about an hour of free time and then go to bed and then go to work in the morning. That was my day, like
That
almost
sounds like
every
Mirage
weekday
Fire.
during the Perennial.
Oh,
And then on the weekends, guess what my schedule was?
streaming every single.
Stream some matches. Yeah. So I had just no free time at all. You don't want that to happen, because that's how you burn out, right? You just do too much, and then you get tired of it because it consumes your life, and then you burn out and you stop doing anything. So you don't want that to happen. So had I been able to trust somebody else or multiple other people to work on the map pools in my stead during the week, and I could just check in on it on the weekends, right? That'd be a way for me to get a little bit more free time back during the week. Or I could check in on it a couple of days during the week, but I don't have to do it all 5 days of the week, right? Just to get everything done. Or if I had, honestly, for me, streaming and commentating is the best thing about tournaments, so I'm not going to delegate that out. I just want to stream and commentate
That's
stuff
true.
on the weekends.
That's true.
But yeah, I think, delegate out the roles that you want to do least and that you can trust those people to do, the people that you're giving those roles out to. Work on the things that you really want to work on as much as possible. Find other people to work on the things that they want to work on as much as possible. And don't let it consume your every waking moment. And you probably won't burn out, especially if, after a tournament is over, especially a big high effort one that you're hosting, you give yourself a couple of weekends or a month or so to just chill out and not do anything tournament related, or at least not have your full weekend consumed by it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, with the delegation stuff, you mentioned, you have to actually trust people, and perhaps tell us a bit about Perennial, right? I assume that's where you're doing a lot of your delegation. How do you sort of unite people that you're delegating work to under a shared vision with the Perennial? Because as a host, vision is is a very, very important thing. And if you want your tournament to go well, you would hope that everybody has the same mission. And so, how do you inspire that shared vision in the people that you delegate work to?
Yeah. Honestly, we're a pretty small team, so there's not that many people to give stuff out to, especially last year. That's part of why I did a lot, but it's also kind of on purpose because I want a small team. It's much easier to know that we're on the same page in a small
Yep.
team versus, if I have 50 people, then I need to make sure that all of them are on the same page. That's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to do. So it's me and Chilier really who are the people with the vision for the tournament. We'll agree together on a vision for the tournament, and then we each have our own things that we are working on for the tournament. Part of it is shared, like map pooling, for example. Part of it is individual. For example, I did almost all of the web dev and cheating for the tournament last year. He did pretty much all of the graphics for the tournament last year. But we still consult each other on these things and make sure that it's in line with what both of us want for the tournament.
Right.
For other things, like for example, contacting musicians and producers for original songs. I had one person in particular, Kasmi-sama, who runs or helped run for a long time GTS, reach out to some artists that GTS had worked with before. And so I kind of asked for a list like, hey, which of these artists would be down to work with another OS tournament in standard? And I kind of went through that artist list with Kasumi. We listened to a couple of the artist's songs and just picked out a few and said, okay, can you contact this, and this artist? And hopefully we get a response and all's good. And that's kind of what we did just for getting originals, right? Is I know somebody who works with a ton of artists. I had them contact a bunch of artists for me, but I made sure that the artists they were contacting were people that I would be happy to work with based on their past work, right? Kind of similar for background artists. By that point, we already have mostly finished songs or good previews. So I talked to Zoodinator and some other artists in the scene, go into the artist hub, send out a post there and see if people are interested. I get enough people to make backgrounds for the original songs at the very least, and have them base the work off of the song, kind of give examples of what I'm thinking for it. And it's a lot of this, okay, here's kind of what I want, here's kind of my vision, here's as much artistic liberty as I can give you within that vision, go to town.
Right.
Because I'm not a musician, I'm not an artist, I have zero clue how to draw anything. I have never drawn anything more than a stick figure in my life.
Real?
So like I have zero clue what they do for their process. So I give as much guidance as they need and also as little guidance as possible so that they can take the ideas and run with it and create a product that they're happy with as much artistic liberty as they want, so that it turns out to be something that they actually like and that also works for what we have.
Right. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think it's also like for map pooling, again, it's a lot of informing playtesters. Hey, this is what we want out of these picks. This is what we want out of this pool. Is this map doing that? Are we getting what we want out of this pick rather than just asking for feedback on a map, right? So smaller nuances like that in the map pooling as well.
I think Shiv actually mentioned like Shiv like told me like when he does OWC pooling, he has questions for playtesters. Hey, does this map test this skill set effectively?
Yeah.
Or whatnot, right? And it's about communicating what you want out of something very clearly, and like not leaving out the chance. That's interesting. I think we are sort of getting to the end of all the stuff that we have for hosting. So, I mean, what are some big logistical hurdles that you face? Maybe in your time hosting Perennial, maybe it can be one of your seasonals. Tell us a bit about some moments.
The biggest logistical hurdles. Well, when I first made the Perennial Twitch account, I forgot to enable VOD saving, so I think the first 2 streams are just gone forever from 2021. That's one logistical hurdle. I forgot that again with Redlock. The the qualifiers results and round of 32 showcase stream is just gone for the ether for Redlock also.
Oh no.
So that one gets me pretty much every time. If I make a new Twitch account, you can bet I'm forgetting to turn that on. That aside, I think the biggest logistical hurdles that we face are just coordinating deadlines, really.
Oh, as always,
Because
normal stuff. That's just
yeah, it's just normal stuff. Like there's nothing crazy that goes on behind the scenes. It's just a bunch of people trying to run a giant project. So of course, coordinating between people, making deadlines clear, and giving extra time and room for both musicians and
right.
producers and background artists and play testers and getting replays. And then, oh, yeah, if it's an original song, we need time for Chillier to make intro videos or somebody else to help
Yeah.
Chillier with intro videos. And oh, yeah, we also need time to make sure that our wall mods for any maps that need wall mods are acceptable for the mappers and custom maps. And it's a lot of the map pooling that is a really huge logistical
Of
hurdle.
course.
And frankly, honestly, map pooling for high effort large scale tournaments is much more like project management than it is like map pooling.
Right.
Because the actual map pooling you can do in like a couple hours or a few hours in
Oh,
a
like
night if you
custom.
have a bunch of maps at the ready. If you have a couple of people working on it, you can kind of hammer out a pool pretty quick. But then it's the communicating what you want out of each map to the playtesters
Yeah.
and making sure things are balanced and giving
Yeah.
time for the custom maps to get done and making sure those align with the rest of the pool or building the pool around them if you do the smart thing and have fewer customs and can build the pool around them,
Yes.
especially originals, right? It's all of that in tandem that makes it such a difficult logistical process, and why a lot of people fail at running high effort map pools with a lot of customs, because it's just really hard
And
and it's a lot of work that's not map pooling. It's project management.
yeah. And what have you done in order to make the process a lot easier? I think in 6WC, I think in OWC they have a whole server for map pooling, if I'm not mistaken, according to Shiv.
Yeah, we also have a
Yeah.
server for Perennial.
Right. Just for pooling.
Yeah,
Just
we
for pooling.
we don't make a new one every year for Perennial, but I do move all of the channels down. So we have the 2022 archive categories, and then all of the 2024 categories. We had categories for custom songs with any of the producers that would actually join the server. Blob Dash is still in the server. Normal M's still in there. Ludison's
Yes,
still in
sir.
there.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Ludison.
Doomsday is still in there, right? We had a bunch of different original, a bunch of different musicians in there. We had individual channels and a category for custom backgrounds. We had kind of a general channel as well for announcements and things. We had an internal category for just the few people who really needed to be in there, and especially playtesting. And then we had a category for qualifiers where we had a playtesting channel and a replays channel for qualifiers. We had a channel or a category for groups where we had playtesting and replays for groups, plus
And
individual channels for each custom map.
oh.
Then we had a category for round of 16 and quarterfinals where we had playtesting and replays for round of 16 and quarterfinals, and an individual channel for each custom map. And then we had the same for semifinals and finals and grand finals, all in a row. So
Yeah.
it is so much. Just make sure that the space you are working in reflects how you want things to be organized.
I think I like saying we have a 6WC internal server, but all of it's just owned by the head pooler. Everything is Mirage Fires, like everything is pooling related. It's and it's like, yeah, no, it definitely resonates with me what you're saying. I mean, we have custom categories for every single round, custom categories and channels for playtesters, replayers, background artists, custom songs and stuff. And yeah, no, it's a lot of project management, and I find that I find that really interesting that, a lot of the time when you're trying to run a bigger project, you really need to spend a lot of time thinking about how you're gonna manage that. And it's all
Yep.
something that comes with practice, I assume, right? For you, you've been doing this for a long time.
Something that comes less from practice and more from failing at it. I'm
That's
gonna be
real.
so honest
That's
with
real.
you.
That's real.
When you really fail at something, you learn real quick how to make it better. And I've done a lot of failing, is what I have done. So
Yeah.
as much success as I've had probably twice as many failures in every aspect of tournaments that you can imagine.
Hey, but you're here now, and that's honestly all that matters. The fact that you kept going is that's what counts. I think that's what counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn from your mistakes and just keep doing stuff.
Yeah. I guess to close out hosting as a whole, I mean, what do you think is the most important the most important value for hosts to have in general?
Keep an open mind and be humble, I guess. Really, I guess if you're talking just a value, humility, just be humble, because you will do stuff wrong. I still do stuff wrong. I still make misapplications of rules from time to time. It happens. Every human will make mistakes, no matter how good they are at something. So if you're gonna try to improve as a host, be humble. Don't believe that you're right all the time. Take advice from others, and make sure that you are actually using that advice and learning as much as you can from others who might have more experience from you or different perspectives than you.
Yeah, and it's also about asking for advice. Knowing when to back down. And I think a lot of the time people are very set in their ways. Or they're afraid of reaching out to others for advice. I mean, how would you advise people going about keeping an open mind and whatnot? Because I think Stage told me a very good point. It's like back in his early days, it was like I put so much effort into this tournament and people don't like it. Like that's messed up. So how would you personally go about attitude fixing per se?
Yeah, well, even if you polish a ball of dung, it's still a ball of dung. So make sure that you're actually polishing something good instead of something bad, right? You might just not be able to perceive why something is bad. And especially if people are saying generally that your tournament is not good, or people are saying that they don't want to play your map pools, or that they just don't want to play your tournament overall, and that's a consistent trend, you very clearly are doing something wrong. So seek out some advice, right? If you're generally getting a lot of signups, if people are generally saying that they're liking playing your tournaments, okay, great, you're doing something right, but you might not know exactly what you're doing right, or you might know some things, but not all of it. There might still be some things that you can improve, right? I think back to Perennial 2021 where we had I think a rule either from OWC or from Course Ace that when applied in the moment actually made for just a worse rule set overall. So we scrapped the rule mid-tournament and just ran with a different rule and a different interpretation and informed everyone what was going on. And because the entire thing was live streamed, a ton of people saw exactly what happened. People were very receptive to the rule change and just saying, okay, yeah, that rule change makes sense, right? So don't necessarily be completely stuck on one interpretation of doing things. I would say changing rules, by the way, changing rules mid-tournament is a very tricky thing. Make sure that you're very clear about what you're doing if you're going to change rules mid-tournament, and that the changed rules wouldn't have affected the outcome of previous matches and things like that, right? You do have to be careful about that if you're changing stuff, especially rules mid-tournament. But I don't know. I try to always keep ego in check, because if you have an ego, it's going to be very hard to accept advice from others easily and to ask for advice. So check your ego at the door when you're hosting a tournament. Ultimately, you are somewhat hosting for yourself, but you're not the person playing the tournament. You have a bunch of players instead playing the tournament, and if they all don't like it, you're clearly doing something wrong.
And it's very easy to develop ego as a host, would you say, especially because, as I mentioned before, you're the one doing the work. Especially like if you've been doing tournaments quite a few times already, and people call you out, it's very easy to think, oh, okay, they don't know what they're talking about, right? And so it's about internalizing every sort of feedback that you get and using it in a meaningful way, right?
Okay, well, not every source of feedback.
Okay.
Some people just some people say things on the feedback channel that you probably should not internalize. and maybe should ban them from your Discord instead. There are some people who say some things you maybe don't want to internalize in the feedback
Why
channel.
would people map
But
pack sliders? Nobody follows them anyways.
but yeah, I mean, you don't want to just brush everything off, right?
Yeah.
Again, if it's a couple of people here and there, okay, yeah, brush it off a little bit, right? Maybe some of them will have a point, and you can consider every piece of constructive feedback. If I have people typing KYS 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 in my feedback channel, I'm just going to ban them. I'm not going to consider that. But like, if it's constructive feedback, consider it at the very least, right? Or if it's a bunch of people who are really angry and they're all kind of angry for the same reason or for similar reasons, even if it's not constructive, maybe consider why they might be angry, right? It's less about use every bit of feedback and more about consider why they might be giving that feedback, or consider how applying that feedback would work, right? Because sometimes their feedback is bad. Let's be honest. Not every piece of feedback is good feedback. But there are a lot of pieces of feedback that are good feedback, and I think more often than not, player feedback and feedback from other hosts is useful for making a better tournament.
Right. Yeah. No, I think we can move away from this hosting stuff because oh my goodness, we still have a few things to get through. Let's talk. Let's talk about TCOM. Let's talk about TCOM. We love TCOM. I think TCOM is a big enigma. The law of 6-digit. Because we're never batched, so it is what it is. But what does a typical day in TCOM look like for you? This is just for me personally as well.
So I get up out of bed and I pick 3 random tournaments that I decide to unbadge for that day, and I pick a random reason to unbadge them.
I like that.
This is to create as much discord in the community as possible and piss off as many people as possible.
I like this. I like this.
Yeah. So realistically, a typical day is like I review a tournament that's finished and take a look at if they're missing anything from the badge criteria. And if they are missing some things, sometimes those can be fixed after the tournament. Sometimes they can't be. If they can be fixed after the tournament, we'll send an email, let them know what to fix, hope they fix them in timely fashion, and then approve the tournament and get badges sent out by account support. Sometimes we'll just have to vote on a tournament and potentially hand out a punishment for really avoiding the badge criteria. Sometimes that doesn't need to happen and it's just a warning. But generally speaking, a lot of tournament committee work is pretty mundane stuff. It's reviewing tournaments after they're finished and making sure that they followed badge criteria. That's most of the work, honestly. The harder parts of tournament committee come from writing official correspondence, getting and investigating reports, ticket questions, email questions, talking in dev server, rewriting the wiki when needed, because there's a lot of different stuff we do, and the tournament reviews are a more recent addition to the workload, and it's a lot of kind of daily work, but it's not something that is particularly difficult necessarily. It's a lot of the other work that's more governing body-esque that is more difficult for tournament committee.
Yeah, I was speaking to Stage about TCOM and whatnot and what you guys do, and to me it sounds like a lot of GMT work. So I mean, as a GMT yourself, right? Is this fulfilling for you? Like why do you still do? I mean, you not just do one. You do like GMT and TCOM stuff. So like, is this fulfilling for you? Like, what are you getting out of it?
What am I getting out of it? I'm getting a lot of random hate and Google Docs out of it. No, I honestly, I'm not really sure what I get out of it exactly. I get a slightly better tournament scene overall out of it. At least that's what I hope. We just try to make the tournament scene as good as it can be, at least in the badged part of the scene, right? And try to kind of curate the scene to be as well run as it can be. So a better tournament scene is also better for me. It's better for all the friends that I've made throughout tournaments, right? All the people that I know, all the players that I know. So we try to make the scene as good as it can be. Obviously, we are also a group of people, and so we also make mistakes, and we try to correct those where we make them. But we try to make the scene better as anyone who cares about the scene would. As for GMT stuff, tournament committee and GMT are very different things. Tournament committee is the group of people who write the official support wiki and therefore determine what the badge criteria are, as well as help enforce that badge criteria through reports on badged tournaments and through tournament reviews and through consulting with the account support team. The GMT are effectively chat mods.
Yeah.
Not anything in particular, just chat mods and forum mods. That's what the GMT is. So GMT does not look at cheating restrictions, does not look at multi-accounting, none of that, right? We talk to account support for those things, not to the GMT. So yeah, we do very different. I do very different things in both of those places. I spend a lot of GMT time kind of moderating the tournament forum, helping out with content review, which is like, hey, is this background suitable for a beat map? Just kind of generally looking at other reports and browsing the forums. I don't do a lot of in-game chat moderating, but I do a little bit more forum moderating and content review stuff.
Right, that's really.
And each moderator kind of picks an area and does that basically. Obviously, there's some crossover and people can do whatever they want. You can start moderating other areas, but generally people like to moderate certain areas of the game rather than others.
And how do you get into both, I guess, GMTing while we're on it and TCOM?
GMT, there was an application cycle open. I applied and I got in.
Let's go.
That was really all there was to it. It was after I had been on TCOM for a while. It was after I had done a ton of stuff. I think slightly before. No. After community contributor. I don't remember. Hold up.
I believe it was after.
I think it was after.
I think it was after.
Yeah, April 2024. Yeah, it was after I was contributor already. I had been on TCOM for a while. Oh no, because my badge is 2 years for GMT. So no, it was before actually that I got admitted onto GMT. Yeah. Because the badge was applied in April 2024, but the badge tenure is 2 years, so it has been longer than my contributor badge.
Right.
So yeah, this was before a lot of stuff actually. Before I started playtesting for the World Cups, before I had contributor. Yeah, so this was before a few things, but yeah, there was an open application cycle. I just applied and got in. Tournament committee, I was in Orlando back when I still lived in Florida in 2022. And it was summer. Chillier Pair, I think, was down there for like a vacation or a business meeting or something. And I met up with Chillier Pair at Exarch. And while I was meeting up with them, Chillier was like, "Hey, Dio, you should apply to be on tournament committee." So I wrote an email while we were at dinner and applied from my phone. And then they put me on because I had kind of put off joining because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to join or not. But eventually, I just kind of felt like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll just join in.
Natural progression. It's a natural progression.
Yeah, it's just kind of natural progression. I don't know, like a bunch of people I knew were in tournament committee. Not a bunch. It was like Chillier and Leo were in tournament committee, and T1G to some extent, though I wasn't as close with him as I am now. Not nearly. And people on tournament committee regarded me pretty highly generally. This was during Perennial 2022 or after Perennial 2022, I think. So that tournament had been tri-badged already. So they knew that I was a respectable host from tournament committee standpoint. So I think that probably helped a little bit. But yeah, I just had already done a bunch of tournament stuff and applied.
Yeah. That's all great. I think a lot of I think we've been talking for quite a while, and I'm getting like a lot of it was just kind of chill. Like you didn't really.
It was just kind of like, I don't know, man. I just did tournament stuff and things happened. I don't know. I'm just here.
Yeah.
I'm just a dude.
All right. This is more of a personal question for myself, but I know TCOM, I think in like what 6 months ago received quite a bit of flack. I am not too familiar with the drama because frankly, like I don't really care much about it. But I'm more interested in
Mm.
talking about like how does TCOM respond to all of this hate or all of the negative backlash that you guys get, because I don't doubt that you guys definitely think about it, and I think you guys did the what was it, it was like the where you guys talk to everybody in Osutoni
Oh yeah,
House.
the
I remember,
community meetings.
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the community meetings, and I thought that was really really cool. But you know, how do you guys like retract from it? How did you guys talk about it, and what was your process when it came to responding to such a hot stove? I'm very interested in hearing
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So we had a lot of mixed opinions about everything
Of course.
going on then with the badge strike document and everything, right?
Mm,
Um, but I think the big thing was a lot of, when there is large community outcry,
yeah.
even if um, even if things are really inflammatory, even if there are accusations against committee members for whatever reason, even if they're like targeting specific people and really kind of like um I mean there were people calling for like oh, T1G doesn't do any work. Oh, T1G is an asshole. He deserves
Oh,
to get
T1,
kicked out of
my
TCOM.
god! What
Oh,
the
Yaz
hell?
doesn't do any work. Like there was people that were really being, I think, kind of nasty about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I
what
understand.
we try to do whenever there's, if there's that much community backlash, there's clearly something bigger, even if some people are making it really inflammatory and targeting specific people,
Yeah.
right? So what we do is stamp out the targeting first of all, because we're a team. We all do work. Yaz does a ton of work. T1G does a ton of work. He is both of them are two of the oldest standing tournament committee members left. They have some really solid perspective, just having been around for even much longer than I've been around. I mean, they were already community contributor by the time I was hosting my second tournament, right? So these are people who have been around for ages. Um, and they bring a perspective that is very unique in that regard, right? So we're a team. We really value our team members also. Everybody's on the team because they deserve to be here and we want them here, right? So stamp out the accusatory targeting statements, right? Um, and then look into why things are so inflammatory, why people are so mad, and try to fix those issues, potentially take any solutions that are being offered, and look into the substance of the issue um rather than the pomp and circumstance, for lack of a better term. I don't really know exactly what I want to say there, but
Yeah.
that'll do. Look into fixing whatever underlying issue or whatever correctly addressed issues are actually there,
Hmm.
that are making people really mad. And we try to do that. Like I said, right? We're human. We make mistakes. There's some things that we don't realize are mistakes, and so once those are pointed out, we try to fix them.
Hmm.
Right? Sometimes that takes a lot of community backlash to really effectively communicate. Sometimes it's something that we notice very quickly and fix very quickly, and then nobody says a word about it.
Yeah.
Um, I think the one thing that a lot of people really struggle with in internal roles, including tournament committee, is the fact that when you do things right, nothing seems
That's
interesting at
true.
all, and so nobody ever notices what you're doing. But if you do something wrong, it's very apparent, and people are pissed, and there's a lot of negative attention. So
Hmm.
you very rarely ever receive positive attention for what you do, and you almost always receive some kind of negative attention or neutral, right? So people, which is really funny to me because people's opinions of Dio, the tournament host, and caster are really high, but people's opinions of
Right.
tournament committee, the group I'm a part of, and the most active internal group I am a part of, are super negative for the most part.
Mm.
So it's really weird to me, kind of juggling those two perceptions, because there's a lot of people that I know who are like
Who
who really
love
like
you
me,
and
but then
hate
who hate
TCOM.
TCOM.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
I don't get how you do both, but
Mhm.
okay, sure. Um,
Is,
yeah,
is it like
yeah,
a
I don't know. There,
Mhm. Is it like a
go ahead.
maturity thing? I think like there's a lot of negative stuff that you have to look at and it's very easy to just shout back and like shoot back at the community, but it's a lot of like calm, like I'm at the calm, and let's think about this. Would you say it's a lot of that?
Yeah, there's definitely a good amount of that.
Mhm.
Even then, it's really hard to not just say
Fuck you.
to not just shoot back. But yeah, um, yeah, there's definitely some of that, and a lot of it is okay. Let's calm down and kind of stamp out anything inflammatory going on, and then respond ourselves in a way that does not dignify any shit slinging, right?
Mhm.
That might be there, and instead focuses on constructively fixing issues in the tournament scene because that's really what we're here to do.
Right, right. And I mean, I'm really curious about this because I hear all of these comments, and it reminds me a lot of things that can be applied in your standard day-to-day tournament, because uh I
Mm.
hate it's just a very common thing, and it's very easy to point fingers to a certain admin when, say, registrations didn't
Yeah.
get through, or bad rules like, oh, this ref didn't enforce free mod rules and stuff like that. So, like, from what I'm getting, it's a lot of taking a step back, retracting, anger and whatnot, realizing that, at the end of the day, nobody's gonna see the good stuff. The bad stuff is just very easily amplified, and
Yeah.
actually getting shit done and going to that root cause. And I mean, would you say that that's a bulk of it?
That really is the bulk of it. Yeah. There's an added layer because we are an internal team. There are certain things we can and cannot share with the public.
Yeah.
So a lot of reports, for example, that we get, there's private user information in those reports. There's DMs. There's things happening in multiplayer lobbies that were not public. There's any number of things that we just can't share with the public. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and especially because it would impact reporter privacy, right? If we share certain screenshots,
Ah.
the reported person might know that, okay, this person is the one who reported me, right? And confidentiality is a big thing for us. So if we, for example, tournament ban somebody and we can't share any of the data on the reports, everybody in the community is just gonna be like, what the fuck, man? Why are you tournament banning this person? And we just have to be
We
like,
like can't. We
can't
can't.
tell you,
We can't
sorry,
tell
they
you.
deserve it, but can't tell you.
Oh.
Which gives me honestly
Mhm.
a lot more trust in account support, and their banning of people who are cheating or multi-accounting. So anytime I
Oh.
see somebody on Twitter complaining about that nowadays, I just block and move on, man. Like at one point, I would have been sympathetic with people who had those issues with account support back in the day before I joined tournament committee. Nowadays,
I'm more
no,
sympathetic
no.
about the people doing the banning and whatnot.
I'm more sympathetic to account support. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they are probably doing a pretty solid job based on my experience in tournament committee.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. No. Very very good points. I think TCOM is an enigma to me because I personally have never interacted with TCOM, but you guys do what you gotta do. Someone has to do it. Someone has to do it. Someone has to
Yep.
take the blame at the
Yep.
end of the day. And yeah, for what it's worth, I'm pretty sure after the whole TCOM stuff, we got what Note KJK, Henry, a bunch of big community people coming in. So like, I mean, it's clear to see that you guys got your shit together, and maybe once I host batch, I will complain about support screening taking ages. But that's a that's a separate thing. That's a separate thing. But yeah, I think that's all
Yeah, yeah.
I think
I've
that's
heard it all.
yep, yep. Honestly, my first email to support asking for a badge. Check me, clip me. But yeah, now let's move a bit away from TCOM. And let's lightly touch on casting, because I'm just one personal question about casting. How did you go about improving at casting? I think there's a very very big rabbit hole to go down.
Okay, so
Apart from cast more.
yeah, I've mentioned before during this interview, I came from a speech and debate background. I
Yes.
did
Yes. And what
uh,
happened? Oh, connection.
4 years of competitive policy debate in university. So I already had a strong background in public speaking,
Yeah.
which I think really helped where I was trying to improve for casting. Right, it's different, of course, from debate and from speech, but it really helped me because I had a lot of the fundamentals of public speaking down already. So I already understood effective communication. That's one thing that I think a lot of casters should study is how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
From there, I watched other casts. I watched a lot of competitive League of Legends and casting there. I watched some sport casting when I was visiting family. Not enough that I ever got to know any particular casters, but my family in Canada watches a lot of sports, so I just heard a lot of sports casting and kind of paid attention there. And then I casted probably 1,000+ matches in the span of like a year
You're kidding.
for probably 2 years.
What the hell?
So in 2019 and 2020, I was casting basically every single weekend, and I was casting multiple hours a day, both days every weekend. So I just
You slugged it out.
casted and streamed as many matches as possible. And just through some fucking grit and determination, I became really good through a ton of practice.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot more to be said nowadays. Back then, I think the standards were a little bit lower, and standards have definitely risen as casters at the top of the scene have also gotten better. Like I'm still continuing to improve my casting, right? Other people who have casted the World Cup Grand Finals are still continuing to improve their casting. It's not like you just stop improving, right? Even if you're just casting more, you'll get practice, you'll continue getting better. So as standards have gone up, I think a lot more of casting has become how do you turn what is happening in the match into a narrative for viewers, and how do you effectively communicate what is going on in the match as if somebody wasn't even looking at the screen. And those are the two things that I try to take into account as much as possible is, okay, if the viewer is turned away, how do I communicate what is going on to them? And if they are turned away during a major point in the match, how do I grab their attention and focus it back on the screen? How do I take what is going on in the match and create a narrative around it? Is there history between the teams? Is there history between the players? Start thinking a lot more about more than just what is happening on screen and more what is happening behind each player's screen, with the history behind the players, the history behind the teams, and what they might be thinking in terms of their strategy, in terms of nerves, in terms of everything else that goes on in a match. Definitely a part of the improvement for me was casting with as many people as possible. I think when you're starting out casting, solo casting is actually really good because it forces you to fill dead space all the time. You have to be the play-by-play caster. You have to do analysis when the map pool screen is on. And you have to transition between those scenes for yourself. When you're duo casting, now you have the opportunity to build some synergy with people, to make jokes off of each other, to learn how they cast versus how you cast, to bounce ideas off of each other in the middle of the match, right? And that's a very different type of casting from solo cast. So casting as much as possible, both solo and with as many people as possible, and thinking about the match, especially if you're trying to really up your casting to the next level rather than just kind of getting good at it. I think if you're starting out, cast as much as possible. If you've already done that and you already have a solid base, start thinking more in the match.
Well, I never thought about it. So for you, it's like of course fundamentals are fundamentals, and that's something that you need to build. But it's more so about the add-on to the map. What exactly anybody can tell you what's happening, but not everybody can add on to the viewing experience. And that's what you say, it takes your commentary to another level, right? And
yeah, exactly. One of the things that I heard, this was a long while ago, and I think it was like a Reddit comment somewhere, but it was something that really influenced how I wanted to cast during major matches with huge viewership, like the World Cups. It was somebody talking about, I think Captain Flowers casting during team fights, and they're like, yeah, I can play a League of Legends match from my phone in my car's Bluetooth while I'm driving, not look at the screen, and still understand what's going on in a team fight because of how good Captain Flowers can cast a team fight. And that's kind of what I want to be able to do for play-by-play, for example,
Mm.
is be able to communicate effectively what is going on, even if somebody's not watching, even if they're driving and not able to watch the match at all for the entire duration of the match. Um,
Mhm.
and if you can communicate that really effectively, you become kind of the most accessible caster for a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of compliments from people who are just completely unfamiliar to tournaments, that they've tuned into matches where I was casting in the World Cup, and it's the first match that they've been able to understand what's going on in the tournament. And
And that
that's really what I wanted to do off of that, right? That's how I wanted to present things, is very understandable for people. And then, yeah, like you said, take a narrative and storytelling to the next level as well,
Mhm.
but obviously still take into account what is going on in the match, right? Not all narratives are not every narrative is correct all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's like, and that's what, you see casters in League of Legends or casters in even sports do very well, right? They make what's happening on screen a lot more accessible, even to hell, even to non-OC players, right? And that's like what really
Mhm.
brings the life to the match. Yeah, no, that means a lot. I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna think about that as a caster myself. Very, very interesting and insightful stuff. Um, I don't want to spend too much time about casting because, frankly speaking, I could go on and on for ages, and I'll probably end up bugging you in DMs for casting stuff, anyways. So I think we can move along. Do you have any last advice for casters? Looking to improve. Like, is there maybe people that you can watch casting, or people you can reach out for casting advice?
um Yeah, I would say definitely watch some OS tournaments for sure. Take some things from OS casters you might look up to, but watch a lot of other esports, because
Mm,
OS frankly has a lot of really good casters actually. I think we're spoiled for the size of the game in terms of our caster choice. Like, the quality of casters in this game is phenomenal
mm-hmm.
compared to the size of the game, and the fact that it will never be a major esport. Um, Versus actual major esports, where like the casters there they're definitely better than us, but it's not a massive gap like it is for a lot of other indie
So
games.
real, so
Um,
real.
yeah, it's definitely, they are still better though. So definitely take a lot of your major cues and look towards professional casters, because as much time as all of us in OS spend on casting, none of us are professionals. We don't get paid to
We
do
don't get
this,
paid.
right? This is not my job. This is a hobby, right? I'm a hobby caster. I'm not a professional.
Right, right, right. And I think like I, s- I've gotten so many lines just from like watching League of Legends cast or watching ML cast or watching
Yeah.
EWC cast. Bro, hell, watch chess. Watch chess. I watched chess in EWC, and I was like, this shit is hype. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think watching a lot is very important, right? And taking away stuff. I have a whole ass notebook. Wait, hang on. Let me see if I can still find it. But I have a whole ass notebook of shit that I legit just wrote down. Of shit that I just wrote down from casting.
Damn.
So yeah.
Okay.
Watch stuff. It's so real, so real. But yeah, let's move on from that. And let's talk about some more stepping back and talking about the scene as a whole. So having
Sure.
been in the scene since 2024, tell us about how the community, maybe community expectations have, or even what hosts are doing today. Tell me about how times have changed across your entire time in the scene. Is there a
So
trend?
just generally, like,
Mm-hmm.
how hosts have changed, how tournaments have
Yeah,
changed, that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like trends that you've
Okay.
noticed or whatnot.
Um yeah, I think hmm,
No worries.
honestly, there's not a ton of big overarching trends. There's a lot of kind of small trends and trends in particular areas that you can maybe point to. Like, there's a ton of Sweegie tournaments right now for some reason. I don't know exactly why. There were times when map pooling really focused on speed and tapping for some particular reason,
What?
and then
Wait,
shifted away
actually?
from that. Map pooling metas have changed a lot.
Oh, stop pulling.
Um,
Stop pulling, dog.
sure. Slot pooling, yeah.
Yeah, all the slot
Yeah,
pulling,
slot
dog.
pooling
Yeah.
versus non-slot pooling. Um, we've talked a lot about sheets already. Don't really need to go into that. The meta's changed so much with sheets, where now you can have sheets that are artistic in design and still, automated and everything.
Thank you, Panda.
Um, Versus back in the day, you had whatever you needed to get the job done,
Mm.
basically. Um, Casters have gotten a lot better from 2019 to now. Casters have gotten insanely good compared to back then. Um, I would say new host quality is down as of recently,
Oh,
not
really?
overall, like not in general over a long term, just like recently.
Uh-huh.
New host quality. There seems to be a lot of like small issues kind of all over the place in tournament reviews
Right.
recently, the last few months. But this is not like
A
part of
trend.
a years long trend. This is just kind of a short term thing. I expect it to either either will fix it or it'll just kind of fix itself. I'm not really sure which. Um, yeah, honestly, there's not like a ton of
Really?
really interesting trends. It's just small things. Map pool metas change, sheets get better, high end staff gets better over time, tools change, but tournaments mostly stay the same. I mean, people are still doing, even all this time later, qualifiers into round of 32 double elim.
Yeah, I mean, could you comment a bit about, I think, can't remember who it was. Again, I can't remember which guest mentioned it, but there's a very big
Mm.
push towards, the OWC UPATS effect, where people, a lot of smaller, I think, what was their name? Was it Polychromatic or someone mentioned that there is a
Oh
very big
yeah.
push towards big graphics now, or like there's a very big push towards stuff that wows the viewer. And I mean, do you have any thoughts being in the scene for so long, seeing that scene or tournaments in general try to go for such big advancements? And do you perhaps think that there might be some downsides or negatives to obviously tournaments having high expectations nowadays?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a trend, I think probably 2021 to 2022, 2023 maybe, where people were really pushing viewership and trying to make Osu an esport, and
Mm,
part of that was the push for higher quality as well. Um, and this was mostly like among large tournaments. You're talking, Corsace Open, Perennial. You're talking any other kind of larger tournaments that were running at the time. But mostly those two alongside OWC. OWC was never really about making it an esport though. It was just about pushing quality. Um, Things like Circle Circuit existed in 2022 also, right?
oh yeah.
Um, which honestly I'd love to run that again. It's just running that after a full season of tournaments, and also which tournaments did you admit into the scene and which host put into it. It's especially when people run new tournaments all the time. Not every tournament runs every year. Like Perennial didn't run this year in 2025.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just random stuff like that that complicates things so much for that. Anyway, the that push for higher quality, I think, did come maybe with the downside of people pursuing the individual things that they thought of as quality rather than the quality itself. So, for example, um,
uh,
people pursuing tons and tons of custom maps and a ton of original songs, to the point that there are so many custom maps in their pool that they have trouble balancing the map pool. And the map pool ends up being worse than if they had just had about half of the customs that they have in the
that's
pool.
unreal.
Or so many originals in a week of a map pool that people aren't excited about each individual original anymore.
Mm,
It's just kind of, oh, there's a lot of originals in this pool. That's cool. Maybe I'll listen to one. I don't know. Instead of, wow, this original this week is really awesome. And it's a bit of a less is more thing with some of these things that people kind of drove quality towards or thought of as part of the quality of a tournament.
mm.
You don't necessarily need to have them for a tournament to be good, and they can make a tournament better if done well. But if done wrongly, they can make your tournament worse than if you just didn't have them at all,
I
or
mean,
if you had very few of them.
do you have any examples of these things being done that make the tournament worse or done poorly in that sense?
Course Ace Open 2024 just
the
Half Slashed
custom.
is gone, and people they did not have, people with the exact same
Mm,
level of skill as Half Slashed. And I mean, let's face it, that guy was basically irreplaceable, and the identity of Course Ace Open was incredibly. Was irreplaceable. He's extremely good at what he did.
yeah.
Um, and so I think that's an example where, yeah, the full custom in that year hurt Course Ace where it might not have before because they had somebody so talented at running it that it didn't matter.
Yeah. And so like a lot of the ambition that Half Slash could fulfill just wasn't there in the next courses, and that was sort of
Exactly. That's also I stay in my lane. I don't do a ton of originals and customs in any tournament that I run, because I know that I don't have that kind of project manager blood in me. That's
right, right.
just not me.
Hmm.
And I know that I can make a much better pool with just a few of them here and there in the pool
Rather than
than
the
with a
entire
ton of them
pool.
all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I guess now this sort of links up to our next question, but with other larger tournament series, I think right now the only tournament series that still run consistently are like the World Cups, 3WC, 4WC, 5 and 6WC. They are the only really annual tournaments that have been holding up for all this time. Do you fear of the sustainability of like yearly big tournaments? I'm looking at, I think now most prominently Res Cup, now that it's just finished. Do you fear for the sustainability?
No, there's always going to be somebody. Um, Corsace is inactive this year. Perennial is inactive this year. Res Cup was running. Perennial was active last year. Corsace was active last year. There was SSOT in what year was that? 2024 or
24,
2023?
23.
I don't remember. There's always somebody running something.
Mhm.
Um, and while it might not be this particular tournament that is going to be the next annual big tournament for people, there's always something running, and it doesn't have to necessarily be high quality either. For a
That's
very
true.
long time that just wasn't a concern in the tournament community. I mean, in 2019 you talked about high quality tournaments and it was like, what's that? People just make tournaments, man. Like they're oh, so going for badge,
What the
right?
heck is a
Like,
map pool showcase? What the hell?
yeah, I mean, we had them, but there was no laser over anything. You just put the maps on in your client, and that was it.
Mhm.
There was very little of it. Um, yeah, I think there's always going to be something running. There might be a hole for a little while, but this is a community-driven game where the community has effectively infinite content and where people come and go all the time. So
Mhm.
as people come and go, as people leave, right, so too will their tournaments, and as people join in, so too will their tournaments, right?
Mhm.
It might not be filled immediately. Whatever void is there might not be filled immediately, but no, I'm not really worried about sustainability of the tournament scene. That takes care of itself with new players.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. I never thought about it like that. You always look at Corsair is not running again this year, and you think, oh wow, yeah, Tony Scene is dead. But in reality, it's like when one goes, there's always someone the come back and bring it up, and that's the Osu scene in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, I do think for people recently with the COVID boom and the like sheer quality of tournaments and amount of people playing OS during the COVID boom,
Yeah.
there's definitely always going to be kind of this nagging feeling that it's not as good as it once was, because I think
Uh,
that probably was a peak that cannot be recreated just
uh,
because there were so many people playing the game
we
at
just
that
need
point,
another
right?
mass
overall
pandemic.
player overall player numbers are down. Like, you're just not going to get quite the same level of interest and activity and involvement.
And there's nothing you can do about it. That's
But
just like the world.
yeah, exactly. It's
Mhm.
unless you want COVID again. But I mean, are you really going to do that for OC tournaments, man?
We've hit a
You
new
don't need to do
all-time
that
low,
for
chat.
tournaments.
We're hitting a new all-time low. But yeah, I guess now is a good time to segue into a few more, outward-looking questions. Uh, where do you see the future of, official OSU tournaments, World Cup, or even, we see Laser Grand Arena or Laser tournaments making their hit on the scene. Where do you see these tournaments heading? I don't know if you could hear that.
Okay, Southeast Asia internet
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. No,
I
Southeast
heard.
Asia internet Wi-Fi.
Okay,
Uh,
is it the second last winner?
yes, yes. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think. I mean, official OS tournaments. I'm not really sure exactly. All my involvement is with commentary. This year with OWC, I don't think I'll be playtesting this year. Um, so that brings my involvement actually down from last year. But the World Cup is pretty faithful to what it has always been. It's an officially run tournament that is run at a pretty high level of quality by a bunch of people who were and still are part of community tournaments doing a really solid job of running it, right? Um, community tournaments, I think I think a big part of this game is that it is always going to be somewhat underground, somewhat niche. And that is by the design of the game, because
Happy
this
really
is a
wants it.
game that is in a legally ambiguous status regarding song usage,
Oh,
and
yeah.
song re-uploading and upload permissions and all that kind of stuff. So unless we go full featured artist, right, there's really no room for growth into something like an esport for OS
Because it
and for
can't.
OS tournaments.
You can't.
Bring,
Mega
you can't get
cut down all the
high
tech
level
maps.
sponsors when you're using Billie Jean unlicensed in the map pool, right? Like that's just not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and no sponsor is going to be willing to license Billie Jean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to use what is available in that case, and that is something that's really really tough. I think there's a lot of good work going on with the featured artist project and with people being able to officially license stuff to the game, and I think eventually there should be a future eventually where featured artist pools are a norm, maybe I don't know 10 or 5 years down the line. I don't know exactly
Maybe
when,
then it'll be an
but I think
esport.
yeah, I think there can be a future where there are full featured artist pools, and maybe in that future timeline there are tournaments that can get larger sponsors and break into more, you know, um, more mainstream viewership numbers. But I think that's probably pretty far off. So for now, I think community tournaments and the World Cups aren't heading anywhere in particular. They're just doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's okay. This is a niche underground game at its core, right? It's a very popular rhythm game, but rhythm games in general are pretty unpopular
Yeah.
overall, right?
Yeah.
They're not super well known, and that's reflected in a lot of the World Cup for this game gets like 25,000 viewers in grand finals concurrent. I can tune into a random League of
Leak.
Legends match and see double that on the daily, right?
Yeah.
So this is not a big game. It doesn't need to be. And community tournaments in the World Cup, I think, are holding pretty steady, slightly improving with every iteration. More original songs, more custom songs, better graphics. There is kind of a race to the top with that, and I don't know how good that is for the game. I think, back to basics can be good in some aspects again,
Mm-hmm.
but there's, yeah, I don't think there's any like big change that the community can affect that would change that. I think it really does have to come kind of top down with the featured artist program.
Yeah, no, and I think Pepe already mentioned that he isn't really interested in expanding the Osu to mainstream that much, right? So I mean, if if not even Pepe wants it, I mean, who can tell him no? Who can tell him no?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not too keen on it either. So
he's not too keen. But yeah, I guess I think we are already running towards the 2 hour mark. Holy crap! I didn't even
yeah.
notice it. But let's just hit it. If you could sum up your personal mission for the Osu tournament community in one sentence, what would it be? You can think. Don't worry. You can
just
think.
yeah, just to keep things fun. That's it.
Mhm.
I don't have, any big grand mission or anything. I want to keep things fair and fun. I want to make it so that as many people as possible can play tournaments and enjoy them.
Mhm.
Um, I want to make it so that as many people have fun playing tournaments as possible.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much it. I don't have a grand mission or anything. If tournaments are fun to play and people feel comfortable and safe playing tournaments, people enjoy playing tournaments, that's really all that I want.
Mhm.
Some of that is through TCOM, some of that is through hosting my own tournaments. It's not really, it's not a grand goal. Again, this is a hobby. I do this in my free time. I have
Yeah.
I have a full-time job. I work, right? I'm otherwise just some dude who does gaming stuff on the weekends and sometimes on the weekdays, right? So,
It's a cool
no
semi.
big grand goal.
It's a semi
Yeah.
cool thing to tell your friends about at parties. You know, hey guys,
Yeah,
look,
exactly.
hey, 200 people watch this. Yeah, no. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting talking to someone like you, because obviously when you come into the stream, it's like, oh, Dio, big name and whatnot. But in reality, when you compare yourselves to a lot of the other people that have come on stream and talked, people, we got Hoak, host of Res Cup Fuvel, host of SSOT coming
Yep.
in. A lot of the time, it's like you compared to them, you are a lot more laid back in your approach, and it's ironically so because you are what people see as like there or the face of the Tawny scene, as the title mentioned. And at the end of the day, you kind of just a chill guy. You kind of just a chill guy. That's
I don't know,
making
man.
people.
Tournaments should be fun. I like playing tournaments. I think tournaments are fun. If you're doing this, it should be for fun. I don't know.
There's no
There's
big
definitely,
ambition.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely some places where you can have those big ambitions, right? Especially like I know a lot of people aim for try
My
badging a
bad.
tournament at the top of things and for making the World Cups, but and I definitely had those ambitions at some point, right? I wanted to host a try badge tournament. I wanted to be a part of the World Cups. But after having done those things, I feel like I kind of thought about it again and said, now what? I did what I wanted to do.
Right.
Okay.
You're,
Well, now what?
you're like there already. You're just like,
Yeah. So now I'm here. I've already done those things.
it's like Thanos
What
after
else
the
is there
snap.
left for me to do?
It's like Thanos
Yeah,
after
a
the
little
snap.
bit.
He's just like
Yeah.
he's just there. Yeah.
Because realistically, I've done everything that I wanted to do in terms of hosting tournaments. I've hosted now actually two different tri badge tournaments in both the roundtable as
Mm.
tournament head for the roundtable because the latest iteration was tri badged, and the perennial.
Mhm.
So I've done both of those. I've casted World Cup Grand Finals. I've play tested OWC. The only thing really I haven't won a badged tournament. I've won two different tournaments unbadged, but I haven't won a badged tournament. Um, so I've done pretty much everything I wanted to do staffing wise.
Mhm.
So it's a little different coming from me because I've really accomplished all of my goals that I set out at the
Ah.
beginning. So I don't have anything that I'm really working towards. I just want the scene to be fun and enjoyable for other people, and I just do this for fun because I've accomplished all my goals. I think definitely for people working towards your goals, I definitely took it a little more seriously at some points as well. But nowadays I'm just chilling.
And I think it also comes from the fact that you came from a time where tournaments were just chill, and now that like you saw it grow, you grew with the tournament scene and you hit the top, and now you're just like back to where we started, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a really good place to end off. We've been going for quite a long time. Any last shout outs to anybody who have influenced you, who have helped you along your journey as a staff in this community?
Yeah, definitely shout outs to Tiger Eyes 144.
Oh,
Gave
nice.
me a shot at being an admin and helping me get into hosting work early on, as well as helping host my first tournament alongside Leo FLT and Ill Onion, now Fairy Bread.
Yes.
Shout outs Chili Repair for all the work alongside me in a ton of different tournaments. Um, Shout out to the few people who gave me a chance when I first applied to work on tournaments. Also,
Mhm.
those would be Nick and Tuco and Deflated Dolphin. Um,
Wow. Those names.
and yeah, and then yeah, I think that's it. Those are
Yeah.
the really important people who have helped me along and made sure that I've gotten a lot of opportunities, a lot of connections, and yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
great
Shout out
to
them.
hear. Yeah, and I think with that, now it's a good place to end the stream, just a bit over the 2 hour mark. So, yeah, thank you so much once again, Dio, for coming to this humble six digit stream. It has been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a pleasure having you on, and it's not every day that you get to talk. That me personally, I get to talk to someone like you. So the pleasure is all mine to be here. Yeah. Any last words for the stream before we close it off?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Slider Break. You are watching another Project Hexagon streams. Check out the matches that we have lined up. I believe we're having some cool roster review reaction or something. I don't know. We'll let you know in the announcement channel. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Gami Kriela. His name was Dio, and we will see you in our next stream. Goodbye.